scariest part. When all sins are deemed equal, when the small and big becomes equal, then I wrote here the floodgates open. Let me tell you what that means. There are some, and by the way, this is a separate study. If I started talking about this, we would take a course by itself one day. All the major sins Allah talks about in the Quran, all of them are addictions. All of them are addictive. And human beings to this day are suffering from each one of them as an addiction. Whether it's zina or alcohol or gambling, go through the gambit. Go through the gambit. They're all addictions, you know, and they're all like perpetuated. Like even riba is something that compounds and compounds. Alcoholism compounds and compounds. Addictions, gambling, it keeps on getting worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. It enhances. Those are the kinds of things that Allah has deemed kaba'ir. Fine. But then you're making feel somebody guilty about something that could go either way. And I'm going to give you, you guys know I'm not a faqih. You guys know that. I don't give fatwa and issue things like that. And I know somebody will try to pull this part of what I'm going to say and turn it into something else. That's fine. I personally don't care because I have to speak what, you know, I have to try to do justice to what I've come to understand. May Allah correct me if and when I'm wrong. When I'm wrong, not if when I'm wrong, because we're all going to be wrong at some point. And I'm sure I'm plenty wrong. Here's something I was researching for a long time. It's not a class about fiqh, so please, with that disclaimer. I was really interested in the prohibition of music. I really wanted to understand it because when I had kids, you know, when I grew up on Sesame Street. I grew up on cartoons, and every cartoon has a theme song. You know that, right? And we pretty much all know them, right? You could be as Islamic as you want. You still remember. Okay? So, you know, then on top of that, movies and, you know, the news. This just in, the elevator. When you get put on hold, right? When your phone rings, when somebody else's phone rings, when there's an announcement in the mall, when you're getting a haircut, like there's so much haram everywhere. You need earplugs to exist on this planet. Like I needed to understand the prohibition of music. I really wanted to grasp it. And there are several ahadith that talk about this issue. And the problem with me is I recognize the limit of my area of expertise. I am not a specialist in hadith by any stretch of the imagination. I'm a student of hadith for my own benefit, but I don't talk about it public. I don't lecture on it because that's not my area of expertise or my area of research. Allah opened some doors for me. I got to meet fuqaha and, you know, muftis from around the world and hadith scholars from around the world. So in my free time, when I'm not doing anything online, which I'm mostly not doing, I go to these people and I say, hey, tell me about music. Not in public and in their living room. Like I was just in the Mufti of Wilaya's office, in the Mufti's office in Kuala Lumpur, the government, the federal Mufti's office, where all the Muftis sit in the office together and they issue fatwa on issues. And they had me do a session with them. And at the end, I was like, hey, can you fatwafy me a little bit? Can we talk about some stuff? So I had conversations with them. When I go to Oxford, I went and sat with Dr. Akram Nadawi and I discussed the hadith about riba and music and other stuff. When I get a chance to when I was in New York, you know, there's a couple of scholars I really trust their opinion in New York. They like to keep their name private, so I won't tell you. But I go to them and I just let loose, ask everything. And I went to some fuqaha in Turkey because, you know, I wanted to gain perspective. The Malaysians are Shafi'i, the Turks are Hanafi. So I wanted to kind of really understand and then one of the students I met, he told me not to say his name yet, so I won't tell you. Okay, I won't tell you. But he was in Makkah. And he's just finishing his master's thesis and brilliant guy. And he's been in Makkah for 12 years. And I just hung out with him, talked to him about the same issues, because that's not my area. I want to benefit from what they have to say. My area of research is Quran. So my first question was, where is music talked about in Quran? Nowhere. It's not there. The one place where you can argue it might be there is Surah Luqman. وَمِنَ النَّاسِ مَنْ يَشْتَرِي لَهْوَ الْحَدِيثِ لِيُضِلَّ عَنْ سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ. Surah Luqman, among the people is someone who purchases vain speech to misguide others from the path of Allah. And the vain speech, لَهْوَ الْحَدِيث, the famous opinion regarding it from Ibn Abbas is this is referring to music. So then the ayah would mean among the people is someone who purchases music. So now all of a sudden, this became a Quran studies issue, right? But Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu has an opinion, and there are several other Sahaba who have several other opinions. And fun enough, the opinion of Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu that's recorded in Ibn Kathir is not authentic. It's not authentic. The chain includes someone who's considered a drunkard. That shouldn't be heard. Like لا يؤخذ منه. So when I came across some of these, and I don't study those chains, the muhaddithun do. The people of riwayah do. I go to them, they say this isn't explicitly clear. I was like, we're back to square one. So where is it? Okay, there are these ahadith. Then I go to Dr. Akram Nadwi. Tell me about these ahadith. None of them reach the degree of sahih. I'm like, okay, he must be a deviant. Because you can't declare something haram until you have most explicit evidence. So I'm still trying to wrap my head around it. I can't make a judgment on it until I know better. So I go to the Grand Mufti of Wilaya because they're Shawafi'. And the Shafi'is generally have a view that it's haram. So I wanted to know. Their full-time job is to issue fatwas for the country. They're not the imam of a masjid or the head of a university or a famous scholar. These are literally, when Allah says, "Ati'u Allah wa ati'u Rasul wa ulil amri minkum," obey Allah, obey the Messenger, obey the ones in positions of authority among you. These are the ulul amr for the entire country. So I asked them, "What's your position on music?" He goes, "We wrote an article about it, about which kinds of it we consider haram and which kinds of it we don't, and here are all the reasons we don't consider these categories." I was like, "Is this in English, Arabic?" He goes, "No, it's in Bahasa." I was like, come on. The point I'm trying to make is, even if you're convinced it's haram, is there enough scholarship? And when I spoke to the Hanafi ulama, they're like, we have no issue with it. We have no issue with it. I went to traditional South Asian Hanafi ulama in private gatherings, no issues. They won't say it in public. Privately, they said no issues. I went to the Turkish ulama, no issues. And I'm like, then I was at a convention and a young speaker was giving the youth motivation. We all know music is haram, right? And I was like, I don't know that. So then backstage, after he was done with his speech, I was like, we all know it's haram? He goes, yeah, akhi, I know there's a lot of, you know what I mean. I was like, no, I don't know what you mean. We all know it's haram. He goes, yes, there is ikhtilaf. So why don't you openly say that? Like, I don't even talk about it. You talk about it. If you're talking about it, can you be intellectually honest about it? He goes, but people go too far. They take it too far. I was like, that's not your problem. Your problem, you cannot protect people from the truth and say if they find the truth, they'll use it the wrong way. Listen, if somebody wants to use something the wrong way, they can even use the Quran the wrong way. And people have. يُضِلُّ بِهِ كَثِيرًا وَيَهْدِي بِهِ كَثِيرًا. They've used it. The Quraysh even used Surah Al-Najm the wrong way and said, oh, Lat, Manat, and Uzza are legit. So this logic that somehow we have to protect the people and not tell them that this is not black and white, because otherwise they will be fitna. Look around you, bro. How much more fitna you want before you say we're protecting them from fitna? What planet are you living on?